Hi everyone, my name is Stacey Pierre and welcome to my channel. Today I have something to admit. I am addicted to chaos. Now you're probably wondering what that means, and you probably clicked on this video because you're wondering what chaos addiction is. Oftentimes when we think about addiction, we think about the tangible things, right? So hardcore drugs, alcohol, other activities that people do when they're getting intimate with one another. We think of being addicted to, just things that we can touch and we can feel and that we can see. But a lot of times people don't think that they can be addicted to the intangible things, right? So certain themes, behaviors, and scenarios that keep playing over and over and over. Now there's this quote that says, God will keep repeating the same lesson over and over again until you get the point. Or essentially until you learn the lesson. But something that I realize is sometimes instead of learning the lesson and moving on, we become so fixated on either the feeling that the situation is giving us or the feeling that we experience when we go through some sort of tumultuous situation that we can become addicted to it. And I want you to ask yourself this. Do you ever find yourself constantly in a mess? Are you constantly in drama? Do you find yourself repeatedly going through the same life circumstances that aren't that beneficial to you over and over and over again? Well, my friend, you might be addicted to chaos. But don't fret. In this video, we're going to talk about what chaos addiction is. We're also going to be talking about ways to overcome chaos addiction and what life looks on the other side of chaos addiction. So stay tuned and you will definitely learn more about this new phenomenon that I didn't coin the term of, but I have been doing a lot of research on. So chaos addiction is rooted in a psychological pattern where individuals find comfort in disorderly or chaotic situations, and this may be rooted in traumatic situations that they've been in the past, family experience, school experiences, where they felt like something chaotic happened but they had no control. So that's the definition of chaos addiction. And something that I want to make clear is that oftentimes when it comes to chaos addiction, it is also linked with our idea of comfort. So when it comes to comfort, we live in a society that really values comfort and comfortability and really just not being uncomfortable. So for example, like a lot of times it's more comfortable to be chaotic or to live in a disorderly living room or a disorderly room because we feel like we have so much going on that we can't possibly get to cleaning our room. We can't possibly get to fixing the things that we need to fix. But that example kind of indicates that you like the idea of being in a chaotic situation because if you didn't, then you would just clean your room. And granted, like, it also ties into time management, it ties into prioritization, it ties into time blocking as well. But I found that through my research, a Harvard either business review or Harvard medical review didn't do a study, but they did some comments on chaos addiction and the idea of comfort. And they said that a lot of Americans today feel very comfortable, and that sometimes could be to our own detriment. We're comforting ourselves to death, essentially. And that could be very frustrating for people to come to the realization to because, you like your comfort, you like your sweet treats, you like going to bed late, you like the disorderly room, whether you want to admit it or not. If you didn't like it or if you didn't find it easeful to do those things, then you wouldn't do those things. So I want to talk about the difference between psychological and behavioral. So I want to talk about the difference between physical addiction and behavioral addiction. There is a difference, and essentially with physical addiction, that relates to people essentially being addicted to substances that they find pleasing to them. And granted, there is a lot of research that talks about substances that can, be addicting, and there is some research that like some people just have addictive personality and can get hooked on those substances based on like their personality, based on their brain wiring and everything like that. But also we have behavioral addictions, and this is where the chaos addiction kind of falls into. So with behavioral addiction, what we are seeing is that people are addicted to repetitive behavior patterns that lead to almost like a dopamine hit once those individuals partake in those activities. So behavioral addiction comes in the form of chaos. It comes in the form of procrastination. It comes in many different forms. And essentially, one of the things that I realized is that with behavioral addiction, it's really tough, right? Because like, it's one thing to tell someone to stop using drugs, even though like there's a whole process of doing that, and I'm not going to go into that because that's not my expertise. But it's another thing to tell someone who's been acting a certain way that hasn't necessarily been harming them to the extent that they think it's harming them, but it's been harming them nonetheless. It's actually pretty difficult to change your behavior. So like, when you think about behavioral addictions, I want you to drop in the comments what you think when you think about behavioral addiction. I've listed some examples, but what things do you participate in that you feel like, oh my goodness, this is a problem and I keep doing this thing, And if you keep doing certain things that aren't beneficial to you, if you keep self-sabotaging, if you keep putting yourself in situations where you're doing things last minute, you're not getting assignments done on time. In my case, with school, I have a couple of examples of me not getting work turned in on time or turning in work late because I just didn't do what I needed to do and I procrastinated, and I have the time to do it, but instead of doing the assignment, I was working on something else. So I want you to think about the behaviors in your life, and one tip that you can do is take the time to actually map out your day. This is something that an instructor gave me as an assignment that I didn't do, but you should definitely do it. And essentially during this assignment, what you're going to do is you are going to map out your entire day and track your time. It's like doing a time audit. So like whether you wake up, brush your teeth, go to the gym, go to classes, go to work, anything that you do, sleep, procrastinate, anything that you do, map out your time so that you understand where your time is being allocated. And once you understand where your time is being allocated, then you can kind of see what your behavioral patterns look like and if they're serving you or if they're leading you down a path that you don't want to necessarily be on. Many people are addicted to chaos because of 4 reasons: familiarity, a dopamine rush, comfort, and ease. And when you think about those reasons, they all kind of fall under the umbrella of like comfort and feeling good and understanding a bit about science and why you feel good. Well, not even understanding why you feel good, but really diving deep and saying like, oh my goodness, I just feel like this rush of emotion when I don't have it all together. Like you feel good for the moment, but you don't necessarily feel good moving forward with that dopamine rush because it's very temporary, and we do need dopamine. We need all these neurochemicals in our brains, but it's very like a temporary thing when you think about it. And like if you find yourself underneath one of these reasons, I'm going to give you some tips on how to overcome addiction and how to overcome the things that you are going through. So the first step in overcoming addiction, especially chaos addiction, is acknowledging that you have a problem. And really asking yourself the deep questions, such as, is this something hindering me from reaching my goals? Is this something that I find problematic? And asking other people in your life to pinpoint your behaviors and really seeing like, okay, like if 5 people say like I always turn things in late, I'm not reliable, I don't show up when I say that I'm gonna show up, what does that mean about my character and what does that mean about the state of my life? It's about asking those really important questions so that you understand what you are stepping into when it comes to acknowledging the problem. And once you acknowledge the problem, the next step to overcoming chaos addiction is finding the root cause of the chaos addiction. And one of the things that you can do, practices that you can do, is like taking a journal and going really deep in that journal and essentially telling yourself, let's talk about my life. Let's start from childhood until present moment. And when you start from childhood until present moment, really write down like pivotal moments in your life. And the pivotal moments, you'll know they're pivotal because you'll remember them and they are feeling based as opposed to logic or thought based. So write down the times in your life where you felt like you first felt comforted by chaos. That's your journal prompt. Write down the time in your life when you first felt comforted by chaos. And from there, once you have written down when you first felt comforted by chaos, move forward and start writing, why do you feel comforted by chaos? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? Especially what were you feeling? That's such an important piece. And after, the next step is to utilize strategies to overcome your chaos addiction. And I know I just mentioned 2 things that you can do, which is, acknowledgement, journaling and writing down how you feel. But in terms of strategies, I think it's best for you to find a strategy that works best for you. So think about different ways that people overcome things. Like on Reddit, there are so many different threads about people overcoming chaos addiction, people overcoming things that don't necessarily make them feel good. So I would explore Reddit, I would explore reputable sites as well, like academic journals and like papers, so that you can understand what it takes to overcome chaos addiction. So that's all from me, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. When you have a chance, please comment down below if you're addicted to chaos and when did it start, why do you think you're addicted to chaos, and how do you plan on overcoming it so that other people can overcome it as well. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye.